Hey everybody, it's Monday, November 11th, 2024. Welcome to the NFL Fantasy Football Show presented by Uber Eats. Get game day deals all season long. Me, your man, MG Marcus Grant, joined by Michael F. Florio and Laquan Jones. We are grateful for the service of many here on this Veterans Day. Almost had my holidays wrong. But on this Veterans Day, glad to be with you here on this show. We are mostly through week 10. Florio, I know we've said this before, but this season is flying by, huh?
Yeah, it's double-digit weeks already. Like, we got 4 left in the fantasy playoffs after this week, and our teams are winning again. We need Laquan to come through and make it another week where all of our teams win.
Well, yeah, Laquan, please. Here's one thing. I am cheering for the Rams this week, but not for the reasons you think. Please tell me they're going to get a win tonight.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We're getting a win tonight. I mean, honestly, I wish I could be there in attendance, but I'm confident in my full-on stacked offense with Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, and end zone D-Rob. So we should be finding the end zone a ton against this Dolphins defense.
So the reason that I am cheering for the Rams tonight is for a weird bit of history that could possibly happen. It's that every NFL, FBS, and FCS football team in the state of Florida has lost so far this weekend, right? So we were talking about the Jaguars, the Bucks, the University of Florida, Florida State, South Florida, UCF. Everyone, the Dolphins are Florida's last hope to get a win this weekend. So me being sort of an agent of chaos and kind of wanting to root for small bits of misery here and there, I need the Rams to make this an O for the weekend for the state of Florida. We got plenty to talk about on the show today. We'll have our biggest takeaways from week 10. We'll dive into the waiver wire, and we're opening up the fantasy mailbag. We have not done enough of that. We haven't done any of that so far this year. So a chance for you all to get your questions out there, and we will do our best to answer them as much as possible. Normally, we start with some fantasy headlines. Fortunately, there weren't any real major injuries. There are some small things that don't seem to be of any real consequence. So fortunately, we don't have to spend a whole lot of time on that. That is a good thing. So instead, it is now time for Fantasy Heroes, presented by Subway. We will start off the show by talking about the guys who have gone big so far in Week 10. Of course, there is still the Monday night game to be played. Let's go back to Thursday night for Joe Burrow, the top quarterback, nearly 34 fantasy points, thanks to 428 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. While we're here in Thursday, let's talk about Jamar Chase, who went just straight up nuclear. 11 catches, 264 yards, and 3 touchdowns, 55.4 fantasy points there. Back to the Sunday games, though. Bijan Robinson, 116 rushing yards, a pair of touchdowns, also 3 catches for 28 yards, 29.4 points for him. Travis Kelce, 8 for 64 and a touchdown, 20 points for Kelce. Kaimi Fairbairn, 3 made field goals, 2 point afters. That was good for 13 points. And the Eagles defense, just picking on the hapless Cowboys, 3 sacks, 5 takeaways, 6 points allowed, 20 points for the Eagles in that one. So those are some of the overall fantasy heroes. Laquan, if you're going to pick one individually, we going on board or off menu for this one?
I'm going on board with Bijan Robinson putting up a career-high 29 fantasy points, and it's safe to say that he owns the Saints because in 3 of his last 4 matchups against the Saints, he's put up 26-plus fantasy points. I know we all remember when it was like the joke about Derrick Henry versus the Houston Texans. He lights it up. Like, we're on that same track with Bijan versus the Saints of just completely lighting it up and saved my fantasy season, I should say personally. So he gets the cape, the S on his chest, Mr. Superman itself, Bijan Robinson for Week 10.
He had to go and save the Falcons on one particular drive. They got down to the goal line. They gave it to Tyler Algier 3 times in a row, and he got stuffed at the goal line 3 times in a row. And Bijan went all Thanos and was like, fine, I'll do it myself. And he scores the touchdown. So good on you. Good on you for doing that, Bijan, for sure. You got another running back that is your hero this week, Florio.
The always underappreciated James Conner. I was pounding the table for Conner in the summer. I've been saying to trade for him and everything. And for some reason, this guy just continues, in my opinion at least, to kind of just go under the radar a little bit. RB4 in Week 10, RB8 on the season. I believe his 80 receiving yards yesterday was the second most a running back has had in any game this year. He could have had a bigger game if the Jets made it competitive. They pretty much were like, we don't need you in the second half much, Connor. But then his schedule moving forward is awesome too. He gets the Seahawks twice, Patriots, Panthers, Vikings, Rams. Like no defense in there that is scary to avoid, and a bunch that are really good matchups. So I think James Conner is going to be a league winner this year. I've thought that all season, and I'm feeling really good about it 10 weeks in right now, and especially after what he did yesterday.
And again, I think to your point, though, he's one of those players that doesn't necessarily get a ton of love when we talk about fantasy drafts. It's like, oh, James Conner. Like, I don't think there's any hate. Like, I don't think people like are dumping on James Conner. He just doesn't generate a lot of excitement until we get to this point in the season. Everybody's like, oh man, I should have drafted James Conner. Like, I think we sort of get to that point with him every single year.
That's all it is.
It is. Yeah. But here's the thing. Last couple years, he's been kind of healthy, right? Like, it's worked out for him in the health department. And then, we start to see what kind of production he can give us because of that. My hero, I'm staying in the desert, and I'm going to go with Kyler Murray. And I was a little bit concerned because of the matchup. And one of the things I had been saying all week is that when Kyler gets you a good game, it's mostly because of his rushing production. And that was pretty much the case on Sunday. 2 rushing touchdowns for him because the passing number is still sort of meh. 266, actually one of his better outputs yardage-wise, but just 1 touchdown. He only has 2 games this year where he has thrown more than 1 touchdown. I mean, it seems like it's pretty standard. He's going to get you at least 1 in pretty much every game. Now, whether he gets you 2 remains to be seen. Even rushing, not a ton of rushing yards, just 21, but the 2 rushing touchdowns help. I'm not going to knock it because if you started him, you were certainly happy to have that 28 fantasy points overall. Now the Cardinals go on a bye this week. The schedule the rest of the way, kind of a mixed bag. They do have a couple of tough games. They face the Rams in championship week, which that Ram defense is improving. They've got the Vikings along there somewhere as well, but some nice matchups too. I mean, they've got the Panthers in the playoffs. They've got the Seahawks, which you just never know week to week which Seahawks team is going to show up. So who knows? Wow. But Kyler is viable. He's maybe not the stud we thought he was going to be coming into the season, but he does look like a viable start for the remainder of the season. Those are our individual. What do you mean?
That's 2 rivals in the division you're giving shine to. I think 49ers fans are going to start side-eyeing you like, hey, what's that?
I have a job to do. My job here, I am like a doctor.
My hate for the 49ers stays the same. Like, I might highlight a couple players, but as a team,
when you take this job, you take sort of a Hippocratic oath of not only doing no harm, but trying to help as much as possible. And sometimes that just means you have to sort of, promote teams that maybe you wouldn't cheer for. Also, I still don't think the Cardinals are going to win the division. So maybe that.
There you go. There it is. Love it.
They're 6-4. Look, they're 6-4. They're in first place. I still don't think they're going to win the division.
Go Kyler.
So there we go. All right. So anyway, now that I've had to explain myself, let's try to explain week 10 at large. Some of the things that we think we learned from what we saw. What did you take away from what you've seen so far this week, Laquan?
Wow, Sean Payton, not a liar. I mean, Audrey Estime has finally arrived, man. 53 rushing yards. Look, I'm saying it now. This might be his job moving forward. I don't think Sean Payton's playing around or wanting to get him involved. I mean, put up the 2nd most rushing yards against the Chiefs defense this year. He was 5 yards shy from Jordan Mason. So it's like you're looking at Audrey Estime and what he brings to the table. He's explosive. He has a nose for the end zone. He's very hard to bring down. This is the body type that Sean Payton wants to get that rock from. I mean, look, the Broncos offense, their rushing attack isn't the most productive, but moving forward, I think, Audrey Estime has finally arrived, and he's definitely worth a look.
I mean, I'm gonna let you finish. But you have to pardon me if I don't fully believe Sean Payton, right? Like I know that as a community we have been clamoring for Audric Estime for weeks now, and it was nice to see it happen. I need to see it probably 2 more times before I really start to believe, just because we know Sean Payton's track record. He'll tell us that he wants to do a thing, but even if he does that thing, it doesn't mean he's going to continually do that thing. So I want to believe, I hope that he has, because I think I have mixed feelings on that. Because I was
about to say, you're sure a Javonte Williams.
I am a Javonte. I am. So I guess I shouldn't be like full-throated, like all about this. So
he's still getting the passing down work, Javonte at least.
There you go.
Yeah, for what it's
Yes,
worth. I
that.
mean, although Javante only played like 6 snaps or something, he didn't play a lot on
No.
Sunday, so I don't really know what to do with that. So that seems to be not working, at least the Javante part of it. Meanwhile, in Chicago, Florio, it seems like none of it is working right now.
Yeah, look, we have now seen 9 games for the Chicago Bears, 10 weeks in, and the simple thing is their offense is broken right now. Like, I think it's 22 or 23 consecutive possessions in a row they have not scored a touchdown. Caleb Williams has not thrown a passing touchdown in 3 straight games, and he routinely is finishing with like this week 120 yards, 217, 131, 226. Like it's very low yardage. They do not have a wide receiver in the top 30 in total points right now. Caleb is the QB 20 on this season. DeAndre Swift is the only Bear that I think you could feel confident about starting, and even that hasn't been the same the last couple of weeks. So you watch the body language, anything you want to look for statistically on tape, they're just the players and what they are doing. Everything points to this offense being broken and not being in sync. And I know they're saying a change has to happen. It is not all on Caleb Williams. I know it is painful to see these other rookie wide receivers balling out and Caleb not, but yeah, this system needs an overhaul and everything. But for the rest of this fantasy season, I think it's okay to get away from all of your Bears not named DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, I mean that's the frustrating part is because we hope that the trio of wide receivers they had would sort of elevate Caleb and vice versa, and they all seem to sort of be, I don't know, they're dragging each other down, but they're certainly not lifting each other up, and I think that's kind of the problem right now. If there
Yeah.
is a silver lining, the Bears aren't giving up on Caleb Williams just yet. Matt Eberflus on Monday during his press conference said that Caleb will remain the starter despite some chatter that it could be different in the very near future. So, I mean, I guess that really means more for Bears fans than it does for fantasy folks because you
Yeah.
just want to see the quarterback develop a little bit. But yeah, it's bad. It's just straight up bad in Chicago. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, and Laquan, you were there to see this in person, but Justin Herbert looks like Herbo is back for the Chargers. It looks like Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh have figured out what to do with their franchise quarterback. 3 straight games with at least 19 fantasy points for Justin Herbert. He's accounted for a pair of touchdowns in all 3 of those. Week 8, week 9, he threw 2 touchdown passes. Week 10, he threw 1. He ran for another. And actually, in a couple of these games, the rushing yards have been kind of nice. At 32 rushing yards on Sunday, 49 rushing yards a couple of weeks ago against the Saints. Look, we're never going to confuse Justin Herbert, for Lamar Jackson or anybody like that. But he's a mobile guy who can get out of the pocket and make plays with his legs. On top of it, we're seeing some of his wide receivers step up. We knew Ladd McConkey was going to be a playmaker, but Quentin Johnston caught a touchdown on Sunday that was not a blown coverage. Maybe the linebacker was late getting over there, but it was not just a straight up blown, standing by himself in the corner of the end zone sort of touchdown. So if we're seeing Ladd McConkey play well, if we're seeing advancement from QJ as well, maybe there's really something here about what the Chargers are doing. On top of that, they're winning games. Like hashtag chargering doesn't mean what it used to mean when it came to this team. And they're very much in the thick of things in the AFC playoff race. I was going to say in the AFC West, but the Chargers or the Chiefs are never, ever going to lose a football game ever again. So that part's off.
Until next week.
I mean, we'll
Please
see.
get it done.
We'll see. Done. 1, it's a regular season game. 2, the Bills find the most heartbreaking ways to lose to the Chiefs. So
we beat them in the regular season. They break our hearts in the playoffs. That's the way it works.
All right, so November is a win. January, all bets are off. Who knows? All right, we're gonna take a break. Come back. We're gonna dive into the waiver wire plus some of your questions as we open the fantasy mailbag. That's next on the NFL Fantasy Football Show. Time for waiver wire presented by YouTube TV. Florio, who should we be targeting for Week 11?
You were just talking him up last segment. I agree. I love Justin Herbert and what he's been doing as of late. Russell Wilson brings a really safe floor, and he has a good matchup next week. Bo Nix continues to get the job done, especially with his legs. And Drake May, just an upside shot worth taking. Jaylen Warren not only had the most touches of his season, but Najee Harris had an ankle injury late in that game. So add Warren if he's out there. Gus Edwards was back and splitting work with J.K. Dobbins. Laquan spoke about Audric Estime, so if he is out there, you should be looking to grab him. And then Cam Akers and Ty Chandler, because Aaron Jones was carted off yesterday. It was Akers that got more work of the two after that. And then Tajay Spears, because he returned and was having a role again yesterday. And then some pass catchers. If they are still out there, please add Juwan Jennings and Cedric Tillman. They should not be out there anymore. Ricky Pearsall continues to play a lot of snaps. Even with the other guys getting healthy. Quentin Johnston continues to score touchdowns. Jalen Coker was the leading receiver for the Panthers yesterday. Mike Williams didn't play many snaps, but he did catch a touchdown. There is upside there rest of the way for him. MVS, if you want to chase fantasy points. And then Dawson Knox, because Dalton Kincaid is dealing with a knee injury now. And Jatavion Sanders just continues to get a little bit more work and continues to be a big red zone presence for the Panthers.
Yeah, a lot of those names, very interesting, especially at the quarterback spot. I want to just say I doubted Bo Nix against the Chiefs. He threw 2 touchdown passes.
Believe,
right?
man.
I am fully a believer now, right? I mean, as of this moment, with obviously 2 quarterbacks still left to play, Bo Nix is the QB 12 on the week, which I did not think he'd come anywhere near that against Kansas City. So you know what? I'm in on Bo Nix. I mean, Laquan, anybody there that really jumps out to you that you'd be willing to maybe blow whatever fab you have left on them?
I mean, look, we talked about the pass catchers, Juwan Jennings and Cedric Tillman. If those two are out there, I'll probably blow the rest of the fab that I have out there. But Justin Herbert's the number 1 quarterback for me, man. He is balling right now, and how that Chargers offense is looking. Boy, he's definitely one of those quarterbacks you want to have now because he's hot, he's feeling it, and you don't want to keep interchanging guys off the waiver wire at the quarterback position.
Yeah, you want to try to get some stability.
Was converted.
No,
the Chargers game,
stop.
He's feeling it now.
No,
they play
as
in Los Angeles.
Look, my son's on the couch right now. He's a traitor, and he knows it. He's smiling at me right now. He's a traitor because he knows it should be a Ramley, not Chargers bolt up. Nah, no.
I mean, hashtag bolt up. Just saying.
No,
just
not doing that.
All right. Anyway, let's dive into the fantasy mailbag because we know that you all out there have questions, and we're going to try to answer them at least as best as we can. First one up, this one from Coulter, who wants to know, and I'll direct this at you, Florio, because you are our biggest Malik Neighbors stand. Is Neighbors cooked rest of the season?
No, look, I broke out the Malik Neighbors shirt right here. No, he is not cooked. I understand. The production hasn't been what we wanted. And I tweeted yesterday, imagine Malik Neighbors with a quarterback who could get him the ball without him potentially getting killed. But he still is getting double-digit targets every single week. He is giving you double-digit fantasy points every single week. And we know the ceiling is much higher. And then the Giants' schedule after their bye week really opens up. They get the Bucs, the Cowboys, the Saints, the Ravens, the Falcons, the Colts, all teams that really struggle against wide receivers. So, in fact, I would say it's the opposite. I would say try to buy low right now on Malik Neighbors, coming off of a couple of down games by his standard and a bye week this week. But yeah, I'm doing the exact opposite of giving up on him. I'm trying to acquire him right now.
You know what's kind of wild is that we talk about all these teams, exploring quarterback changes. We haven't heard any of that from the Giants. Like, they seem locked in with Daniel Jones, who's been just straight up awful this year. I have
a Tommy Cutlet shirt right here. Give us some Tommy Cutlet, please.
I mean, look, man, he's still is he a free agent? Is he floating around somewhere? I don't know where he is.
I think he's
right
their
now.
Third stringer.
Is he? Okay.
Is.
So he's behind Drew Lock. Yep, you are correct. He's behind Drew Lock right now on the roster. Next tweet comes from Jeremy Miller. Laquan, trade CeeDee Lamb and Breece Hall. I'm in dire straits with these two going forward. Is it time to punt on guys who were, in a lot of leagues, both first-round picks?
I mean, at least with CD Lamb, it's not looking good over there in Dallas, honestly, and his name still sells. But Breece Hall, I'm more so sticking around with. He's getting targets, he's getting usage, he's the number one guy there. Even in the Jets' bad games, he's still getting the opportunities to put up fantasy points. At least with CD Lamb, this offense is not going to look the same with Dak. I don't care what Jerry Jones saying that the offense looked better without Dak. Like, are we serious? Like, Trey Lance ended up making an appearance in this game, by the way, but it's like, come on now. I honestly think CD Lamb still has a name that you can sell, and then your league mates are going to jump all over, but make sure you get a good return after that, you know?
I was really hoping that the offense would look functional with Cooper Rush. It did not, to the point that Rush got benched, then unbenched, then rebenched for Trey Lance, because that was kind of a wild sequence where like Trey Lance came in for like a play, and then Cooper Rush came back for a few more plays, and then they went back to Trey Lance just to finish out the game. And now there's talk that Lance could start next week for Dallas. It's a mess. I still sort of believe that CD Lamb can be productive, but man, what we saw on Sunday, a huge downgrade. Because now they got to deal with the Texans this week too, which is on Monday Night Football. It's on Monday Night Football, so we get to all see it. We all get to see it in prime time in an island game. Watch how bad the Cowboys are right now. Yay. And then as for Breece Hall, I still think they're going to be better Breece Hall games. I know that, you know, right now everything around the Jets seems sort of toxic, starting with their quarterback. But again, it always kind of freaks me out. I look up at Jets games and then I'll see Braylon Allen on the field, and I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, why isn't this just all Breece Hall all the time? But I still think he's talented enough and should get enough volume that it's sort of worthwhile. But if you are in panic mode, put some offers out there, see what's the best return you can get, because you don't want to just sell these guys for pennies on the dollar because of what their ceiling is. One last one here, this one from Tim J. Is Calvin Ridley a wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 going forward? Florio, I know you are big. I hear somebody clapping their hands and getting all excited. All right, where are we on Calvin Ridley right now?
We are on the moon right now. That is where we are at when it comes to Calvin Ridley. I mean, I would say he's more of a wide receiver 2. I don't think he's a wide receiver 1. I think he's going to be very boom or bust. But look at what he's done the last few weeks. 8, 9, 15, 8, 9 targets in each of his last 5 games. The last 3 weeks, a lot of yardage. Now getting in the fun with some touchdowns. But what I really love, he gets the Vikings next week, who entering the week had allowed the most fantasy points per game to wide receivers. Texans are tough. Then he gets the Commanders, the Jaguars, the Bengals, the Colts, and he finishes the fantasy season with a revenge game in Jacksonville against a team that has really struggled against wide receivers. I kept saying it for a while. I think Calvin Ridley is going to go off in the second half. It is starting to happen. Hopefully you were patient with him, because I don't think he is going to be this year's like biggest league winner, but I do believe he will be on a good percentage of championship rosters.
It does help that there's just not a lot of places to go with the football there. Like, I don't know that you can trust Nick Westbrook Akine or Tyler Boyd, who I honestly sometimes forget is on the roster. Calvin Ridley is he kind of is it. And as long as Will Levis is out there willing to throw YOLO balls, there's certainly a chance that it could happen for him. All right, we'll get some more of your mailbag questions a little bit later on in the week, but we appreciate you sending them in. Of course, you can always hit us up either individually or at the NFL Fantasy handle there as well. Time now for Moments We Love, presented by Barefoot Wines. And shout out to defenders who have some very creative celebrations. This one from Cam Bynum of the Minnesota Vikings. After he picked off Mac Jones, decided to have a callback to the Olympics where he did the ray gun celebration, which I feel like Laquan, he nailed this thing.
Yes, I'm just laughing because I'm just like, wow, what a throwback to the 2024 Olympics. But man, I'm all for this.
The Pilates move he does halfway through, Florio, where he just kind of like does a side crunch or something like that. Like, I feel like that takes some solid abs to get that done. And then you have the dinosaur, the T-Rex at the end there. Oh, it's a kangaroo. I forgot she's Australian. Yes, it's a kangaroo. Yes.
What I love is he had to spend time of his week at the facility or practice or whatever, practicing this, like watching the video over and memorizing it and because you can't pull this off on a whim. Like, you have to prepare for this. So that's my favorite part of that, of this celebration.
he's had this celebration loaded up for weeks. Like this has been a thing
Yeah.
for weeks. He's been waiting for the moment, and he was able to get it
Entire
done.
moment.
So, like, no, shout out to him for having the choreography ready and remembering it at the time that you needed it to bring it out. So, shout out to Cam Bynum for that. Ray Gun, you will live in our hearts forever. And there you go. That is Moments We Love, presented by Barefoot Wine. In the meantime, for us, that is it. We are done. We appreciate you hanging out with the NFL Fantasy Football Show presented by Uber Eats. You know the drill. Tell two friends to tell two friends. Rate, review, and remember, the fact that no one understands you doesn't mean you're an artist. Be safe, take care of yourselves, and we will talk to you tomorrow.